For this particular class, I'm using Logic Pro 10 on a Mac, but any sequencer can do, and this class is not really about using the software, but more about harmony and writing music and fitting elements together. So before we start with the first project that we're going to build, I want to give you the picture that we're going to use, or that I use when I write music, and it's always in the back of my mind. There's a few elements that we need to remember. The first one is that every story has a place in time, right? Like every story starts with that, once upon a time, or one day, or yesterday, or there's a time context. The time context is going to be given by the beat, the rhythm element. So in this particular case, we're going to use drums, drum loops, percussions, like anything like that that is not really harmonic, but more the space and time. That's going to give you the space and time. And that kind of sets the story. And the second element that we absolutely need when we're writing music is the foundation. And I want you to picture every piece of music that you're writing as a house. So that house needs to be built in a space of time, the rhythm section. The house needs a foundation, which is going to be the lower range instrument. Most of the time it's going to be the bass. Okay, and the bass is going to set that, the foundation on which we're going to build all the rest of the elements together. We have the foundation, and our house needs walls, right? Just plain walls, and those walls are going to be the chords. And if we have walls, a house with walls, then we can set the details. We can paint that particular wall, where we've got something to paint on. And when we're painting, it's going to be over the chords. So sorry, wrong patch here, but you get the idea. And then once we have basically the setting in time, the foundation, the walls, we can add details. We can add colors to the house. We can add furniture to the house. We can add people to the house, details to the house, what makes that house unique. And that is the job of the soloist. So in this case, most of you are guitar players, but that can be any soloist. It can be a vocal line, a piano line, a string section, a harmonica, whatever. That's adding details to the house, the structure that is already built. So we're going to do this in two sections. Sorry, one big session with several sections. And we're going to start building the foundations of the house with 10 backing tracks, and then we'll discuss how to add details to the house that we're building. So in order to build our houses, our backing tracks, our tracks, we're going to keep these elements, right? The element of time, the element of the foundation, the walls. So those three elements need to be talked about at some point or another during our writing process. And just keep that in mind. And we're going to have a blueprint, 10 different blueprints, which are in your study guide. These blueprints are basically what the architect gets. All right, well, I've got to build a tiny house. Well, let's build a tiny house. Or I've got to build a mansion. Okay, build a mansion with all the elements. Element of time, the architect is going to know which era of time we're in. That's the beat, the drums. The walls, so if it's a small house, just a simple walls. A mansion, really big, large, rich walls, chords. And then we, as the lead players, we will start developing and adding details to all that. So this is jam track 1. And the blueprint that we're getting, we're the architects, and it's less is more. We've got to build a house with less is more. So I'll read the brief brief that I wrote on the study guide. The first track we will create is minimalistic. Not many details. This means that a lot of options are available as far as scales to be used. Remember, the scale element, that's the lead player, that's the decorator who's going to come in, basically on a blank canvas, right? There's not much details to follow for this. And we're going to learn how that translates to harmony. Less is more. So that's the concept. So I'm going to open my Logic sequencer, and again, if you're watching this later on, you can try to basically take some of the ideas that we're going to use in your own sequencer and your own band too. You can do this live if you have a band, experiment with that. And again, I'm not going to get into details about how to use the software, but more harmony and stuff. So let's take a look at our software. Nice. I'm proud of this this view there that I put together. Hopefully you're enjoying this too. So you see that there's a couple tracks that are already created here, and I just did that in advance. But this is one quick tip for those of you who do some recordings. I like to use 2 layers of drums or rhythm patterns. So this is the space context, right? Once upon a time. That's what we're doing here, those 2 green tracks. And basically what I did, on one track, I'm using a software called Stylus. This is what it looks like. Stylus is an expensive pack, but it was really worth it for me. And basically it's a collection of different grooves, starting grooves. Not necessarily full drums, but grooves. And I decided to go with this one. This is how it sounds like. Very inspiring, right? It just loops over and over. And on top of that, I added a second track, which is, in this case, Easy Drummer from Tune Track, and I added a simple drum loop. And if I play both together, we have our element of time, once upon a time. This is what we're playing on. I kind of feel that the loop adds to the regular drums. Adds more dimension. Okay, as far as the tempo goes, we can just experiment with different things. I got this set as at 108 beats per minute, but it really doesn't matter. I'm gonna make a quick quick stop on the chat here. Make sure that everything is good. I am using Logic Pro 10. You can use anything for that. You don't even have to have a sequencer. If you don't have one, you can try that with other people, or just gather all this info in your mind. All right, so we're good. We're going to continue. And the goal here, again, is to build a very minimalistic track. So why are we doing that? We're doing that because I want you to understand the importance of the foundation of the house, which is what everything is attracted to. The walls are built on that foundation. So if I built a very simple foundation, I'm going to loop this. See, I looped that section. It's going to loop over and over. And I'm going to go on my bass patch, which in this case I'm using a software called Trillion. It's a collection of bass sounds. They sound really, really good, I think. But that's our foundation, the ground level on which we're going to build our house. Remember, we're architects, and our goal is to build a very minimalistic house. So we are in the foundation space here. Just going to play around with one foundation. And we'll pick a G sharp because it's a black key. Black keys are cool because anything you play on black keys are going to work together. So we'll just use that G sharp. 2, 3, 4. One little tip, by the way, I will show you the software. When you're doing that thing, when you're recording something, don't forget to press the record button because I just did. So let's try that again. Just to make this more interesting, I'll add the same note an octave higher. Just kind of adds a little bit. So this is going to loop over and over. So we've got our space and time, which is, I don't know, 1990s, for example, whatever that drum influences you, it doesn't matter. That's the space and time and our foundation. And now that we have that, that's basically a blank canvas, right? And the most minimalistic thing we can do is to have our space and time and our foundation. And then just let the designer put his own walls, right? It's kind of like the IKEA way of doing a backing track. We've got some drums and some bass. And now what that means is that if let's say that I'm adding, we'll add another instrument, okay? Melodic instruments. Let's do, I don't know, we'll just add a piano, a simple piano, okay? The piano can represent the walls by playing just random chords, right? And what is the simplest wall we can play? The simplest wall that we can build is a two-point wall, you know, with the bass and the top, so 2 notes, right? So that's very simple walls. I'm just playing random notes, right? And these walls, simple walls, are going to be all attracted to the foundation. So let's hear how that sounds. I'm going to play a random wall like this. I don't know what that is. I don't care. Just 2-note wall that are going to be attracted to my foundation. And no matter what the foundation is, it's always going to work. So let's try that. So here's my wall. Here's another wall. All right, now if I suggest a wall just by 1 note, that note is always attracted to my foundation. They all work, right? Now let's go to let's go back to what we're good at, which is our guitar. So I'm going to grab my guitar, and I'm going to suggest some walls by playing 1 note, and you'll see that all the notes are attracted to my foundation, and they're all going to work. Really, they're all going to suggest a different type of wall. And really, when I said 2 notes for a wall, just 1 note is enough because we have that foundation. So if I put 1 point, 1 dot, 1 note, it's always attracted to that foundation, and that suggests a different wall. And right now we don't have really real walls. We're just suggesting walls by playing simple notes. So if I'm playing random notes, really random, I don't know what I'm playing, but they're all attracted to my foundation, and because I don't have any walls to follow, anything is open. So I'm going to try to improvise using, I don't know what, random shapes that I come up with, and I'm gonna try to attach myself to the timing factor, because there's no walls to follow. I need to follow something when I'm painting, and I'm going to use that, you know, the time range, which is the drums. So if I listen just to the drums here, that's my groove, and I'm going to try to groove with that. I don't have to worry about the walls, just the foundation and that groove. So just random notes. Everything works, right? It sounds kind of fusion-y, kind of complex, but it's not at all. It's not complex at all. It's just using the fact that I don't have much to follow. I have a blank canvas, so anything I play is going to work. All right, I'm going to pause real quick. I'm going to go back to your comments here. Transitions are done with my mouse. I'm using a software that allows me to transition between this shot where you're seeing me play, and I've got my shots already made. This shot's here where I'm, you know, oops, sorry, I'm on the wrong track, and that's why you didn't hear keyboards. All those different shots. Ooh, nice. So that's why I'm not using a foot controller. Anyways, that's basically just a very blank canvas that we can paint over. Now, if we are uncomfortable playing random notes like that, we can pick a pattern that we're used to. Any pattern that's going to be attracted to that bass. So I can start from this note. I don't know what that is. Minor pentatonic. We're going to try to make that work over our backing track. And I will go to that question in a second. Mike asked a great question about being attracted to the wall notes. Let me demonstrate this really quick. So we're back into our sequencer, our simple backing track that we created. And I'm going to use that pentatonic scale, which happens to be a C minor pentatonic. It doesn't matter. It could be a B, a B flat. It really doesn't matter. It's attracted to a single foundation. If I play with confidence, it's going to work. Let's not try a B minor pentatonic. It sounds different because I'm suggesting different walls. They're all attracted to the same foundation, but it still works. It's just a different type of house. And as the designer with my guitar, I can kind of make my own decorations on the house, my own paint. But with a blank canvas like that, with a single note, it's always possible. So let me go back to this question. Can you expand on what you mean by attracted to the wall notes, since some notes sound more attractive? So the attractiveness of this, in this particular case where you just have a foundation, a one-note foundation, really the attractiveness is subjective. It's going to depend on what you listen to. If you listen to a lot of blues, you're going to be attracted to that type of sound. Over this this backing track, you're going to be attracted to this. Right? These notes are all attracted to that foundation. But there's no wrong notes. Every note that I'm playing is measured according to that foundation. So if I'm playing this note, for example, within the minor pentatonic scale of F sharp, G sharp, this happens to be a perfect fourth, which is kind of a note that a lot of people hear. And then we have a minor third, a root, a minor seven. All that kind of suggests the straight minor pentatonic. But if I played this half step above, in A, over the same backing track, it still works. These notes are still attracted to a single note, so I don't have to worry about more than one note to match the elements. Every note is measured according to that F sharp. And if I play an A minor pentatonic, I would have a major third, a minor second, a major seventh, and so forth. Let's hear how that sounds. If this is a little uncomfortable to you, doesn't mean that it's wrong, but if I go back to what might be more comfortable to you, this sound, which we hear a lot, that's why it's comfortable, then this. But any scale is going to work. Any pentatonic, for example. They're all attracted to that same foundation. Okay, so that's the idea on a very minimalistic track. We're gonna move on just because I want to make sure that we cover those 10 tracks. But this is really a very simple track with the element of time and the foundation. I'm going to leave this loop as it is, and by Monday you will have this extended backing track. I will add some fills, I'll make it a little bit more interesting, but a single pedal bass, okay? And the pedal was G sharp. It could have been anything else, right? It would still work. And what the lesson you need to remember is the less pitches you hear in the backing track, the more options you have as the decorator. Okay, so that's why it's called less is more. Okay, Keith, welcome. Hi, thanks for joining us. So we just covered the first track. I'm going to save that. Right now it's just a loop, right, with a backing track. I will later, what I'll do is basically add maybe a fill here at the beginning to make it a little more interesting. And for that, basically I'll just open my sequencer, I'll look for fills. Maybe this would work. I would basically do something like this. And when I send you all those finalized tracks Monday at some point, probably later during the day with the edited video, you will have the full backing track. And I will remind you that you can really play anything, and I'll try to suggest some improvisational ways to approach this. Very simple, minimalistic backing track. That was assignment number 1. We're going to move to jam track number 2. Sorry, 2. This one, not this one. I don't know what that is. Number 2. Jam track number 2, and I will read you the assignment. So again, we're architects. We kind of know our craft. We know that we need an element of time. We need a foundation, and we need walls. And this one is more is less. That's the title of the brief that we're getting. We've got to build a house. More is less. So that probably means more complex structures, defined walls. And the more defined a wall is, the more constraints the designer or the decorator has, which is the solo guy. So the brief is this, more is less. The second backing track uses rich, complex chords, which will greatly influence what we are allowed to play. The more notes, the more constraints we have. So let's get started with that. I'm going to open session number 2. Those 2 tracks are the time element, okay? And let's... Is it still black? Really? It should be good now. Okay. Let's build the foundation, okay? The foundation is going to be a single note that is going to attract everything else. So I'll take your input. Give me a note, just one note. First one who answers gets it. I know there's a little delay in the stream, so I'm sorry about that. I've got to wait for you to catch up, for the stream to catch up. But we're going to use a single note here, and we'll add that on the bass. And you will see my lack of knowledge of... come on. Catch up. Any note here? A, B, C, C sharp, D. Great. Okay. Wow, there's like a minute of lag here. The first one that I saw was D, so we're going to use a D. I know where D is. On the keyboard, we're in luck. So here's a D. We're going to use a simple foundation, right? Nothing fancy. We can fantasize things down the road. But for now, let's groove in D. Just a simple D. I might add another D in different areas of the fretboard, but that's what we're going to do. And let's start. Here's our count. needs a bass player? I'm just joking. I love bass players. So that's our foundation. Okay, so right now we have a very basic structure, just like backing track number 1. Very basic canvas. We need to add some walls. I'm going to add one wall to this, just one, and for this we can use this pad, this pad patch. I think it will work. But those are walls that I'm building. By the way, the stream is not stereo, but when you get the track, everything is going to be stereo. What I'm hearing is stereo. What you're hearing is not. But for the next live streams, if this is, if you like this kind of thing, I'll do more, and I'll make sure to improve everything. So let's just try some walls here. The more notes we have, the less options we have. So we know that we have a D on the foundation. That note is taken care of. So I'm going to leave that D alone. If I play another chord, I'm going to use D, not D sharp or D flat, D. Because if I play D sharp, it's going to clash with that D of the foundation. D flat, it's going to clash too. Whereas D is great. It's taken care already by the foundation. So we're going to try a chord that is going to use a D. If we had to use a D, it would be a D. Some kind of C, some kind of D, E, F, and the other notes we're going to determine. So let's build a 3-note chord. A 3-note chord. And for that, basically, I want to show you what should be happening in your mind as a guitar player. Let's switch here to this. So I've got a blank fretboard, and right now on our backing track, what we have is a D. And so I'm going to highlight all the Ds that I have. I have a D here, here. Where else? I've got one here. I've got one on the open string right here. So those are all Ds, and those are all roots, which means that anything else we play is going to be attracted to our foundation. So the roots are going to be red. I'm going to remove that open string here. It's kind of confusing. This software is neck diagrams. If I use this for everything I do in my teaching stuff, it's really great. I will include all the charts right Monday when I send you this. But that means that now, since these are the foundations, the roots, the red notes, anything else I add is going to be attracted to my roots. So if I add a note here, it's a flat second. Here, a flat third, and so forth. So I've got my Ds, okay? We're gonna change this D. We're not gonna name it root, but we will name it D. There we go. No, there we don't go. How do I show a label as note? That's a D. All right, I'm gonna remove these extra Ds here to avoid confusion. So we have a D. We're going to build a chord. So let's define what kind of other notes we have, and that's where need some input here too. And thank you, Stefan. Yes, you're right. Tonality is going to be directed by that chord. Let's add all the possible notes that we could have. So I'm going to go back to this, all the possible notes. We could have, we could basically have anything in between, right? Anything in between would work. I'm missing a note here. All of those notes could work. Well, let's randomly draw a scale. All right, just randomly picked some additional notes here. So I've got my D, my root, a flat second, a flat third. You know what? To make things a little bit less confusing, I'm not going to use the intervals here. I'm going to use the names of the notes. All right. D and D sharp, we can't do that. We need to rename this. We need to rename it because we can't have two forms of Ds in the same thing. So I'm gonna call this E flat. All the rest is good. I've got my D, I've got my E type, F type, G, A, B, C. That's a possible scale. So these notes, I can extract some of these notes to build a chord. So that is one example. But I could maybe play a regular E if I wanted to, or I could play a regular B too. All these notes are possible notes. Let's pick this, for example, and I'm going to decide to use these notes, A, G, and B, randomly, okay? So what I'm going to do is build a chord using these three notes. So now I'm going to delete anything else that is not part of these notes. Delete all those, and I'm going to, on my fretboard, I'm going to write my A's, my G's, and my B's. Okay, I'll just write it in this area of the fretboard here. I got a B here, a G, an A here, B. I'm just kind of writing this as I go. And all right, that's okay for now, I guess. These notes can draw out some types of chords. So if I switch to my guitar right here, and actually you should see the diagram too, I could decide to concentrate on this note right here, the B, that is on the high E string, 7th fret, this G, and this A. Okay, so if I play this chord, what is it attracted to? It's attracted to the D, right? That we have in the bass. So let's hear how that chord sounds over our backing track. So let's switch back to Logic, and we'll just hear how that sounds. I'm gonna remove the driver. It's already removed. Let's hear how that sounds. It's our foundation. I'm gonna add the first wall. That adds a color. So I'm going to replace my guitar with a pad here. Like that, and I'm just going to record that pad. Okay, so now we've got our first wall, which is made of 3 notes that are attracted to our foundation. That establishes something. I'm going to change tones here. I don't really like this sound. It's kind of difficult to understand what's going on. I'll probably use a piano or something like that. Maybe a piano with some pads. That's fine. Alright, so we've got our first wall that is built here. That means that as a decorator now, we can start painting that wall. And the paint has to follow the guideline that is given by the foundation and the first wall. Let's go back to our drawing board here. We basically have 4 different notes. We have a D, which is on the foundation, and then we have an A. We have this note, which was in the chord, a G, and a B. So now I can complete this. And I'm going to use just this zone of the fretboard here. So anytime I have a D, I'm going to write a D. Anytime I have an A, I'm going to put a dot for the A. Anytime I have a G, I will write down the G, and the B, I'll do that right here. And that kind of draws out the beginning of a scale that I can memorize. Notice we're not naming that scale. That's irrelevant. But I can use this to start building my improv because I extracted the notes from the foundation and the first wall. So let's give that a try. And try to build the first paint layer or add some details. It sounds pretty good. It's a good start. And you see how my lead was really influenced by those walls. I didn't paint outside of those walls. Painting outside of the walls would mean not considering the structure of the wall and taking maybe that B, which is in the wall, and instead of playing a B, I play a B flat. That would clash. That would be that wouldn't really fit the original design. Let's hear how that sounds. So I'm replacing that B with a B flat. There's a problem there. That note really clashes with the wall. Right? It clashes because the wall has a B and I'm playing B flat. So the lesson to take out of this is that you really should pay attention to what the house is before you start painting it and adding your details, your furniture in it. You can't place, you know, a 10 feet couch in a room that is 8 feet. It's going to go outside of it. That's going to break the wall. Your job as a player is to paint over what is given, decorate what is given. And so that illustrates the concept of more is less. More information in the track is less option for the player. It's more guided. You've got to really respect what the architect first did. And there's a few, there's a comment here about some of the notes that are missing, and that's where you can be creative. Let's take this for example, okay? So I'm going to remove that note that clashed, which is the B flat. We know that D was the root, so I'm going to replace this by naming it root, putting it red, and we're going to, instead of using the notes here, we will use intervals. So we have a root. We don't have a second. What kind of seconds can we use? Well, we have two choices. I can use a major second or a minor second, right? Either of those choices are valid. And that's where you can experiment. And I will put a note in the, when I send you all this material, that you have options. You can complete whatever is missing. And I'll give you, that's why when you download backing tracks, sometimes there's more than one suggestion as far as scales. It's because some chords don't really give all the notes of the scale, and if some notes are missing, that's up to you. So let's hear how this sounds with a minor second. There's no third here, so I can have a minor third or a major third. Let's do a major third. We're going for the kind of unexpected sound here, but it's still right. There's a fourth, there's a fifth, there's a sixth, there's no seventh. Let's use a major seventh. There we go. Very weird scale, but possible scale with a root, a minor second, a major third, which we could also play right here. Maybe we'll do that. A fourth, a fifth, a major sixth, and a major seventh. and then I will just complete all the rest here. I've got a root, a minor second. We decided to go with major third, perfect fourth, fifth, sixth. What are we needing? What else do we need? We need a seventh, a major seventh. There's a scale. Okay, we completed the blanks. Very weird scale, but we'll hear how that sounds. If you don't like the sound of it, it means that you're not used to it. And if you don't like it, don't use it. You don't have to use something you don't like. But that's just to illustrate how this will work. So, here's our track. And here's the new scale, and we'll see how that sounds. Interesting sound. Are we allowed to play this? Yes, because we respected the walls. Track number 3, the goal here is to build a modal backing track with no pedal bass. I'll explain. Basically, we're going to use chords that are directly extracted from a mode or a scale, and we're going to determine together. And this is going to be a very basic way of building a track, a modal track, but it's very useful too. And the first step to do is to determine a mode that we're going to use. So if you have an idea of a mode you want to use, let's keep it church mode: Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, and we'll build something. And let's see what we want to do here. Any suggestions? And as soon as I have a suggestion, we're going to go back to our diagram. We're going to go back to our diagram, and we're going to erase all this, which was for track number 2. And we'll write down the mode that we're going to use. So, Phrygian. Okay, let's do something in Phrygian. Rich answered first. That's the first one I saw. So we're going to do something in Phrygian. I need a key. I'll help you out. We'll do something in E Phrygian, okay? We'll use E as the starting point. So back to our canvas here. E is the foundation. All the notes that we play are going to be attracted to that E. Phrygian. The Phrygian scale, the formula is root, minor second, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, minor sixth, and minor seventh. Okay, so if I take these 7 notes, I can write them down on the fretboard, all over the fretboard. And that's where neck diagram is pretty cool. There's a scale generator. We're in E Phrygian. So I'm just going to select my Phrygian mode here, determine the root. We said that the root is going to be E. And bam, here's our E Phrygian scale all over the fretboard. All right, we're going to build a track with E Phrygian. So we're going to start with the foundation, which is E. Yep, wrong track. Sorry. I'm going to move back to my bass track. And before I do that, actually, I'm going to open up track number 3 project, which is we're building a Phrygian backing track. We determined to do Phrygian. And I kind of prepared that track already in advance so that there's a few things happening here in the track. We have a layered drum track with two different tracks, a standard drum and a loop that's going on We're changing the tempo a little bit just for fun. We're at 98 beats per minute. All right, and our foundation is E. Okay, we're going to first extract some chords from E Phrygian, and that's where harmony is useful. A quick lesson in harmony: we can extract chords from this scale by using all the intervals, root, minor second, minor third, fourth, fifth, minor sixth, minor seventh, and build chords. And there's a lot of different types of chords we can use. We're going to go simple. We're going to use 3-note chords. I'm going to use my white pencil here, and basically what that means is from the root we can build a chord with a root, first note, we skip the next note to the third, skip the next note to the fifth. So root, minor third, fifth, that gives us a minor chord. And then we can do the same thing, but this time starting with the second note. So the second note, we skip the next to the fourth, skip the next to the sixth. And what that does, that creates a new chord shape, which is a major chord shape, because I consider this note my minor second, I consider it the root, that's the third, and that's the fifth. And I can do the same thing starting with each of these notes. And at the end, I will have that scale, that 7-note scale, harmonized into thirds. Let's move back to the screen here. Harmonized into thirds. And this is where if you're taking notes, it'd be great to take them. I'm gonna give you the order of these different chords that we have. I will write them down on the chat actually. So we are in E Phrygian, and if we extract 3-note chords from E Phrygian, we'll have the following order: minor, which is the Phrygian one, major, major, minor, minor, flat 5, that's the weird half diminished one, major, and minor. What that means is that if we take all the 7 notes and consider them as starting points for our chords, the first note that we have, which is E, will be minor. The second note, which is F, will be major. And the third note will be minor. Oh, major, sorry, major again. So minor, major, major, minor, minor, flat 5, major, minor, and we're back to minor. So we extracted chords. So let's attach to these chords we extracted, let's attach actual note names. I hope you're following along, and this video is being recorded so you can watch it again, and I will add to the study guide. It'll be easier to follow too. But if we attach actual names to these, I will go back into the chat and I will write them down. We have E minor. The next one is F major. And I'm typing in the YouTube chat here if you don't know where I am. The next one is G major. The next one will be A minor. Next one is B minor flat 5. Next one is C major. Next one is D minor. So we can use these chords. And because we're in E Phrygian, I'm going to try to concentrate really on the I'm going to make a point that the first chord that I hear is the foundation chord, which is E. So I'm going to have my E, and then I'm going to pick random chords here. Let's pick a G, for example, and that G should be major, right? Let's pick another one. A, maybe? And a fourth one, we'll do C. Randomly, right? I could have picked any others. So 4 chords. So the first one, I said E. Then I said G. A. And C. So we're going to loop that, okay? We'll see what happens. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to copy this layered track, make it a little bit longer, and we'll see. So I'm going to put my guitar down. It'll be easier to work with. Let's switch to this view right here. You'll see my incredible skills as a piano player. I'm really well versed into. I'm not. Embarrassing, but this is to show you that anyone could do this. So we started with the E. Okay. Here we go. I'll play this several times and maybe I'll find some kind of groove more interesting. I might mess up as we go, probably, but here we go. The last note sounded kind of awkward, but there we go. I'm going to go back and fix that last note, that higher note, which should be this. Very basic, right? I'm going to loop this, and on top of it, we're going to add our walls. So we determined our walls already. We knew that we're going to play an E minor, a G major, an A minor, and a C major. So for the wall, let's build a guitar wall this time. So here we go. And stop by the chat real quick. The bass notes, yep, thanks. And the chord progression basically is E minor, G major, A minor, and the last one was C major. So why does this work in E Phrygian? Because we extracted some chords from there. So if I play these chords on my guitar, I'm gonna, by the way, when you're recording, don't try not to use too many open chords in a backing track creation, because your foundation is kind of lower on the fretboard, and if you play just open chords like that, it might create some mud. So I like to play a little bit higher on the fretboard, different voicings. We'll try to add a B7 at the end. It's a great suggestion. Actually, we won't, but yes, if you do that, that's going to go into modulation a little bit, but I don't want to go there. Good suggestion, though. All right, so, and yeah, V picks, I love V picks. I'm just so used to them. E minor, G major, A minor, and C major. Let's give that a try. Okay, we're going to jam a little bit with that. I'm going to kill the delay because that's not going to help anything. And we are going to record these chords. Okay, very simple. Why is that Phrygian? Because these notes are extracted from E Phrygian. So now if I play E Phrygian over that, it's going to work. Okay, let's move to the next backing track, which is very similar. But let me read you the brief of that for jam track number 4. It's still a modal backing track, but this time the bass is going to remain the same. And we'll see what that does. And for that, to demonstrate that, I'm just going to scratch that bass that is following the chords and keep a constant bass. And you'll see that the chords are really going to be attracted to that E. It makes it a lot easier to really hear the color of the mode. And I'm sorry that the stream is mono, but in stereo you'll be able to hear that a lot better when I take care of that. But you can see the importance of the foundation. The foundation alone really establishes everything. All the chords are attracted to that. So if I just play this on my guitar, we have a constant E on the bass, E minor attracted to the E. Sounds like E minor. The G. That starts to draw a color there. That's the G. The A minor. And the C. Everything is attracted to the E, which solidifies the modal wall. You can build as many walls as you want, and sorry about the delay in the answering the question, but you can build as many as you want, of course. Now, what I would do with this backing track, what I will do by Monday is, I'm actually going to mute that guitar. I will re-record it a little bit better, but what I will do by Monday on that bass pedal thing, to make it even more interesting, I will probably take the E Phrygian scale and I would kind of riff around it. So it would sound something like this. Instead of just constant bass, I would try to create some kind of riff idea. Like that. That's kind of what I would probably do. But that's for a modal backing track with a pedal tone in the back. And that bass pedal that is constant really attracts everything to it and really solidifies the modal character of the track. In this particular track, we have 2 layers again, drums and just a loop going on. I could very well do this just with the drums. Doesn't matter, but I think it sounds kind of cool with the added loop. Okay, so now that we have that, we are going to build our foundation, and we're talking about modulation. So modulation is a change of keys. So the first thing is we're just going to build a simple modal chord progression, just like we did a second ago, and I kind of need to speed things up a little bit because we have 5 more to go, but we can go back to our drawing board here. I'm going to start fresh with a blank canvas, and we're going to decide to do this in Dorian, D Dorian. So here's my D Dorian scale, 7-note scale. I can fill out all the fretboard with notes of with notes that are found in D Dorian. I could do that, and that'll kind of give us a better idea as to what we're playing with. I can extract chords from that, and if I did that, the same method that we did previously, I would take each of the notes. I said D Dorian, that's why I was confused. This is the root. There. Okay. So I could extract 3-note chords starting with each of the 7 notes, and I'm going to write them down here on the fretboard. We'd have a D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B half diminished really, minor flat 5, and C major. These are the chords that we extracted from that. I'm going to go quick here because what I want to concentrate on is the modulation aspect. But it's the same exact method we did in the previous backing track. So I'm going to build a modal chord progression. I'm going to do a D minor, E minor, A minor, and maybe a B minor flat 5. So I'll use that to build my track. I'm going to do this really quick. So I've got a D, E, A, and B. Let's do that. Very simple. To that, I'm going to add my chords. And here, let's switch back to this view. And my chords. Oops, sorry. Let's turn the volume on. Okay, so I've got a backing track in D Dorian. Okay, so far it's a straightforward modal backing track, right? Very straightforward modal backing track. Well, we are going to modulate, change keys. There's no rules when we modulate. No rules at all. And we're going to make this really... and sorry, I know I look a little bit stressed, but that's because I'm trying to juggle the screen switches and plus... the comments and all that, but I'm not stressed. We're amongst friends, so it's all good. I've got a track in D Dorian. I'm going to modulate. And again, no rules at all. So I want you guys to give me an interval. And any interval is good. And I want you to give me a plus and a minus. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. That's really what it is. Guys, what are you thinking? Thanks, Dan. Thanks so much. So I'm looking for an interval and a plus and a minus, or a minus. Like plus major third, minus major third, doesn't matter. We're going to modulate. Change keys. Fourth, and I need a plus or a minus. I'll take Alex's plus, okay? So fourth plus. So the first interval I got was from BPS, which is a fourth, and the first direction was a plus. So plus fourth. All right. So let me take this a little slower, breathe a little bit. That was good advice. And I'm out of coffee. Plus fourth. That's where logic is great. Having a sequencer is great because I can take any note, a note that sounds like a note, and hit a button and transpose. So we've got our backing track that we just wrote, a simple loop, which was in D Dorian. I'm going to take that, I'm going to copy the drums right here, and then I'm going to take my bass line that we just recorded, and we're going to transpose that. So I'm going to just combine these two together. All right, we're going to transpose that. So I'm going to select the notes that I have in this section, and I'm going to transpose them. I'm going to do it the lazy way. I'm just going to transpose them manually. I selected all of them. We were in D. I want to transpose them a fourth above, which is this. There you go. And then I'm going to have to transpose my chords. Unfortunately, because the chords were guitar chords recorded, I'm going to have to record that on the guitar. It doesn't really transpose audio easily. But that's okay. We can just record that together. So let's switch back to our guitar view. And the chords are basically exactly the same. We were at D minor, E minor, A minor, B flat minor with a flat fifth. I'm sorry, B minor with a flat fifth. Then at some point we're going to modulate, do the same exact things but in G. So we're going to give that a try. I'm going to switch tones here to something a little bit cleaner. And here we go. This is D Dorian. Modulating right there. One more time. Okay, so we created a simple modulation track. So that's our house, right? The foundation is the bass, and that foundation kind of moves a little bit, so it's kind of built on a hill. We've got our walls, which are the chords. We have the foundation, and we have the time and space. And all together creates our track. Now we're going to add details to all that. We're going to paint over that, add some decorations and that kind of thing. And that's the role of lead player. So here's my lead tone. So I'm first painting over the D Dorian section. And then I'm modulating at some point to G Dorian. And here's where it gets a little bit interesting. I will write the chord progression really quick here. We had E minor, D minor, E minor, A minor, and B minor flat 5. That's for the first section. And then we're modulating to G minor, same exact chord progression, but fourth above, A minor, D minor, and E minor flat 5. So it's that modulation that I want to talk about here. So we have two different keys. So let's go back to our drawing board. Neck diagrams is the software. We know that the first section, the first chord progression, was written using a D Dorian scale. So I'm going to write, or I'm going to generate a D Dorian scale on the fretboard. There we go. That's our D Dorian. The second section, we use the same exact chord progression a fourth above. And that fourth above happens to be a G. So the second scale is a G Dorian scale. So I'm going to generate a G Dorian. Okay, so two different scales. And what a lot of players would be tempted to do is to basically take a D Dorian scale in a position they're comfortable with. I'll draw this and with the white notes. Improvise with that position here that's drawn out with the white notes. And then when it comes time to play in G Dorian, they'd use the same exact shape, but starting from G right here. That's what most people would be tempted to do. And that would work, right? But that's painting this wall and then switching to the other wall and painting the other wall. And painting like that and painting like that, back and forth. And that kind of tends to sound a little bit jumpy. It would sound like this. D Dorian. I'm going to do the other wall. It works, right? That kind of works okay. But it's not as smooth. It would be a lot smoother to paint this wall, D Dorian, and then you know that there's that wall to paint, and you're going to transition, fade out, and in between paint the rest. So how do we do that when you're decorating things? It's really simple. And this works all the time. It's never not going to work when you're dealing with two different keys. Basically, what you need to do is to find the common notes between these scales, between these two different scales. And whether it's D Dorian, G Dorian, D Dorian, C sharp, Lydian, just naming anything, it's always going to work. If we go back to the illustration of painting this wall green, painting this wall red, and you're jumping around, you know, changing brushes depending on the backing track. Whereas if you paint green here and then transition between green and red, you have, I don't know, blue. Just kind of fade out a little bit of blue, and then you transition like that. That's finding kind of the common primary color, basically. And there's a bunch actually that we can see here. There's a few. I'm going to use the white square to illustrate them. All right, let's start with D Dorian. D Dorian, we have a D. We also have a D in G Dorian. Great. E is also common. F is also common. Wow, there's quite a few. G is also common. A is common. B flat and B is not common, and C is common. There's tons of notes in common here. You see that? That means that if I just stuck to these 5 notes that I painted, that I drew, I'm sorry, 6. That means I could build my whole improv with just these 6 notes. That's great. That's super easy. But if we go a step further, basically what you're trying to do is find one of these common notes. So let's just use the D, for example. D is our common note between both. And now instead of jumping from one wall to the other, we can gradually transition, and we can just look at, I'm going to isolate, I'm going to actually use the D that is right here because that's a position that most are used to. I'm going to delete anything that is around that, so that we can really focus on that section of the fretboard. So D is the common color. And we can build our palette, our painting canvas, like that. On the first section, we have the scale of D Dorian, that shape, D Dorian shape. And when we're transitioning to G Dorian, you see that shape? Starting from D, even though D is not the root, we can still play that note. That builds a D Aeolian. Very close. And what that would do, because I'm in the same area of the fretboard, I can very smoothly transition from one wall to the other without jumping and changing brushes and paint in the bucket. Let's hear how that sounds. I will start by playing the jumpy way, where I'm painting one wall, changing brushes, and painting the other. So that's basically using different, and sorry, I'm realizing here that you might not be able to see the full diagram. There we go. That should be a little better. Kind of. Maybe not. But hopefully you get the idea. I'll start by switching positions like that. Switching brushes, which is basically playing the same shape but jumping around. And then I'll show you how to smoothly transition, and you'll see how that sounds. Here we go. Let's switch back to, I'm going to open Logic, and here's what we're going to have. So the jumpy way, I'm fitting this Dorian wall. Switching brushes, painting this one. You really see that they're different walls. Now I'm going to smoothly transition using those shapes. So D Dorian and D Aeolian. I'm using the same scales, but smoothly transitioning. Listen to the transition. You heard that? I'm going to do it again when I switch walls. I'll do it one more time. See how smooth that is? It's a lot smoother than the other way. So that's the idea when modulating, painting over different walls that don't necessarily have much in common first, but you can make them have stuff in common, and it's that common thing that is going to allow you to smoothly transition. Move on to backing track number 6. This is going to be quick because it's basically the same concept, but instead of having foundations that that are switching with the chords, they're smooth. They're staying the same. Pedals, bass drones like that. I've got my time setting. And I'm just going to riff around that with a bass pattern. Black notes are cool, again, because you play a black note, you can complement with any other black notes. They're going to work. Plus, I don't know, I like black notes. So let's try to just groove around black notes, and I will use, for this black note, which happens to be a B flat. So let's get our groove on. I'm going to put my guitar down. And here we go. Yep, that is lame. All right, that's not bad. I'm gonna copy that a second time. No point in re-recording it. And that's our foundation. Okay, we've got our foundation. The bass, you know, moves a little bit, so the foundation moves a little bit. There's a little bit, maybe a little rock in there on our house. We're gonna build some walls. So I've got. I really don't like this pad here. You know what? I'm just going to use my guitar for that. And I will use my guitar, and I'm gonna play some very simple 3-note chords. So 3 notes together. I don't know what they are. They're cool. They sound okay. I'll show you on the diagram the shape that I'm going to use. So this is not relevant anymore. I can delete this thing. I'm going to delete these notes. Not relevant anymore. What's happening here is that we have our foundation, which is, I can't remember what I played. I can't remember the bass here. Okay, B flat. So we've got a B flat. That's not relevant for now. But what I'm doing is basically playing some shapes, like this kind of shape right there. I did a video on my YouTube channel about magic chord shapes. It's a shape that comes back often. We're not worried about the actual intervals or anything like that. Just going off the shape. And you can move those around. They're all going to be attracted to my bass, and I'm not worried about what it is as of now. So here's what it will do. I'm going to record 2 of these shapes. I'll decide to use, I don't know, we'll just play around a little bit. I'm going to remove the drive so that it's a little bit clearer. And I'm going to go back into our sequencer, which is right here. And play one of these shapes, and we'll see what sounds cool. And eventually I want to try to come up with a progression of 2 of these shapes. And hopefully they're not in the same key. And the best way for them not to be in the same key is to play one shape and the other one a half step above. It's the best way. But we'll see what happens. We're just going to experiment a little bit. That's an aspect when you're writing. Just have the foundation, have the place and time, and then just experiment. So this is what we're going to do right now. So you're listening to the groove. Da 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 da. It's kind of busy, so I'm going to play the opposite. I'm not going to play busy because there's a lot of stuff going on. I want to add like a pad type of sound. Random, right? If I don't like this, I'll try to half step above. That's kind of cool. Kind of like that. I'll probably use that shape. So this is the exact shape that I just showed you, but starting on the 6th fret. So this is the shape that I'm using. I'm really not worried about what these notes are at all. I was just playing. So I'm gonna not even show them. So at some point I'll use that chord. Let's try another one. That sounds great too. That sounds cool. So I'm going to play a few like that, and I'm going to record something using that concept, okay? I don't want to overdo it. I'm just going to make things a little bit simple, not too many chords, but here we go. Okay, that sounds good. That's our chord progression. Okay, so that's what we're having. You're picturing the house there, right? I hope so. I hope you're picturing a house with two walls, basically. The first wall, and the next one is right there. Oh, sorry. So let's go to our drawing board. And we have that first chord, and the second chord that I played was the same exact shape, but starting on the 10th fret right there. Now these, I'm sorry, in context of the wall, we're attracted to that drone that we had right here. Okay, so they were attracted to that. And I will write this, I'll use a diamond shape there. That's our root. So I'm going to tell the software that this is a root. And I'm also going to tell the software now to replace these notes with intervals so that we can see what they are in context in relation to that root. Okay? So now I've got some information here. And I've got a minor third, which I'm going to try to bring a little bit closer to my root right here. I do have a second. It's right here. I have a fourth. I'm going to place it right here. Same exact notes. I'm just placing them in context. A major sixth and a minor seventh. Check this out. That's a 7-note scale. That's really not enough to have a modulation. This is all on the same scale. So that first section, I could play a B-flat Dorian scale, which is this. Let's just for fun. Let's hear how that sounds over the backing track. And here we go. B-flat Dorian over this track. So we created B-flat Dorian out of not much. Okay. So we're in B-flat Dorian, so that's not enough to have a modulation here. So I'm going to extend that track. You know, I'm realizing that this particular section can be used for a backing track down the road, so we're going to make 2 in 1 here. If we just took this section, what we just discussed about building that track with random chords like that, if you look at your guideline, your study guide, this is basically what's happening in jam track number 9, jam track number 10, which basically is called Using the Clues, where we're experimenting with chord shapes, sus2 chord shapes, and sus2 chords are chords with no thirds, and we're just kind of playing until we have a mood that is established, and then going back to the board and drawing these and putting them together and seeing what do we have. That's how you do track number 10. So we'll use this as a base point for track number 10 when I send you those tracks. One step further, along with that, we can do the same thing with, instead of having these kind of chord shapes, they're called sus2s because there's no thirds. Instead of having a third root, major third, perfect fifth, we're replacing the third with a second. Monday I will send you the charts for those sus2 shapes. And because there's no thirds, they're kind of ambiguous, and we have to bring them all together to see the scale. We could do the same thing with sus4s, which replaces the third with a fourth. So instead of having 1, 3, 5 major triad, we have 1, 4, 5. There's no thirds. We don't know what it is. And that's where we go on the board and we draw them out. And that's actually track number 9. So we're combining 3 tracks in one here. I hope you're following. I'll make sure that it's clear in the follow-up that I will send you Monday, okay? We are in track number 6, and we're trying to establish a mood using a single bass drone. We discovered that here with the chord shapes that we're using, which were sus2 shapes, they're in the same key, so that's not enough. We want to modulate at some point. So to do that, I'm going to get back into Logic, and I'm going to basically take all that I have and extend it, copy it another time. And on that second section, I need to add new chords to hopefully modulate. And for that, why don't we take the same exact chord progression that we had, and start it at a different fret. So instead of starting it on fret number 6, I could start it on fret number, I don't know, 7 or 9 and record that. And hopefully that'll give us the modulation we're looking for. So let's give that a try. I'm going to re-record that guitar. Sorry. That's the first chord, the top left. Same exact shape, but starting on the 10th fret. That is the B flat Dorian. Next shape starting on the 7th fret. And then we're going to start that on the 11th fret. There we go. Okay, now that should work. So sorry about the little weird thing there. We were in B flat Dorian here because our root was right here. And you see how that root is right below this note, same fret? That means that since we're using the same type of chord progression here, below here is a starting point of another Dorian scale. And this happens to be B Dorian. So that's a great modulation here, B Dorian. The drone remains the same. So now I could play my B flat Dorian on that first progression and then modulate to B Dorian a half step above. Let's see how that sounds. And I will switch to the full guitar view. Almost done with this track. It was a little confusing. Thanks for bearing with me. Here we go. B flat Dorian, right? Sorry, I'm recording over what I just did. That's why you can hear the chords. Let's try it again. Here's the modulation. Back to the first key. so forth. Whew. We got out of it. Okay, guys. There's no B flat and B Dorian. You're right. But in the theory of things, we're not really playing in B Dorian. We're using the B Dorian shape over a B flat. And the scale, really the mood is not B Dorian because of that foundation there in the back. What you need to remember is that basically we need to respect all the elements that are given in the track. And that's the foundation and the walls. Those are going to give you the notes. Even if some of the notes sound a little weird and kind of clash together, the important thing is to respect the walls you're building on. Now, if I were writing an actual song or something like that, I would probably ask myself that same question, or maybe not ask that question in particular, but I would think to myself that B flat and B kind of clash. I don't really like that sound. I would experiment with other chords. But that's the idea. The idea is to experiment and then go on the drawing board and see what that tells you as far as the options that you have. Okay, this was a little bit heavy, but the thing you need to remember is to respect the elements. That's really the most important thing. Okay? All right. Let's go back to the study guide. And if it's in front of you, we've covered pretty much everything. We covered less is more. We started a very basic foundation. More is less. We added some walls. And from there, we expanded. On the third jam track, which was a modal chord progression, we took all the notes, all the Lego pieces, and build walls. Modal backing track, we did something in Phrygian, where the foundation kind of like followed the walls as we went, and we built something in E Phrygian. Then we took that same backing track and we just kept the foundation straight, so the walls were still the same, but the foundation straight. That gave us even more of the modal feel. Then we talked about modulation, changing keys, painting the walls like that, and then smoothly transitioning. And then we kept the foundation the same. We then, while we were doing that, we talked about using sus2 chords, which are kind of ambiguous chords. And how do we know what to play over that? We just draw them on the fretboard and see what kind of scale that gives us. We also used sus4s, so sus2s and sus4s, which are chords with no thirds. There's two other backing tracks I want to talk to you about. I'm going to combine them into two because we're running out of time, but there's the same exact concept. Monday I will send you all those tracks that I will finish building. But if we look at jam track 7, the brief that we have as architects is to build a house or backing track that that fits the theme. It fits a theme. So we need to start with a theme. I've got a very simple loop here. We're going to start with a theme by just singing something. I don't know. Okay. Starting to. Why not? I don't like the end. Yep. That's what we'll do. We've got a theme. This came up like that. We can try to find that on our instrument. Yep. I'm going to kill the delay. It's going to be a little bit easier. And I'm going to bring that. Yeah. Yep. Okay, something like that, okay? So I'm going to record that. Very basic. Sorry. Do that another time. We've got our theme. Each note to that theme can be attracted to something. And the bass. We're going to try a lot of different foundations. So the notes kind of like, we have details to the house. Now we need to build the walls and the foundation. Let's just experiment with that foundation. I don't know, might be horrible. It works. Probably we're not expecting that, but it works great though. I could go in that direction. I could go in completely different direction. I'm sure most people would hear something like that. Or maybe this. The point is, starting with a theme starts to influence and feed our imagination. So let's just try simple. We'll play a D here on the bass. It just happens to work. I don't know the notes of the theme or anything like that. I didn't think in terms of scales, but just sounds and experimenting. So let's try that. We'll see what happens. And I'm going to actually copy and paste this several times because I might be inspired to do a little more. We'll see. So we're just building the foundation here. Great, that works. The theme is just the starting point. We're going to cut the theme now, delete it. We don't need it anymore. It served its purpose to give us ideas as to which kind of house to build. Now that we have that, I could extract those notes, write them down on my canvas. So we're going to start with a new, fresh canvas here. Delete that. So we had something like this. We had some E's on the bass, the foundation. Let's hear what we have because I can't remember. That's our E's. Played an octave higher. Okay, so, sorry, oh, you're still on this stupid finger screen, sorry. This is, these are the notes that we had on the bass. That kind of draws a shape, looks majory. It could be an Ionian mode. It could also be a Mixolydian, right? Could be any of those. If we went the Mixolydian route, we could complete our scale. This right here is the root, so we're going to tell it that, hey, I want this to be a root, please, thank you. And extract chords, build chords using these 7 notes, and by harmonizing the way we did previously in the tracks. And I'm going to do this right away. I know that we're at the end of the session, but I'm going to complete this by adding some Mixolydian chords. Why not? And we'll see if it sounds cool. You know what? It doesn't sound cool. It works, but I didn't really like what I did there. I think it's the Mixolydian. I'm not in a Mixolydian mood, so I'm gonna use Ionian instead. So I will go back to my canvas, change this to a major seventh, and now we're gonna give that a try. And because it's an E open string, that's easier to build my my chords around. So that's great. Here we go. Great. That's a great Ionian backing track. We can go back to our theme. You remember what it was? If we add our theme to that, it should sound great because we built our house according to the theme. So if we go back to the roots, it should work. We'll see. Oops, sorry. I kind of need a countdown, but that's okay. And then you let inspiration just do its thing. Jam track number 8, getting inspiration from a solo. And so for that, I would use a simple drum loop too, and just start improvising over it. So let's try that. And I would do that for a little while and then just experiment with different foundations. If that foundation is not doing the attraction that I wanted to, I would try another type of attraction. Until I find something that I like. Which this sounds pretty cool to me. And then I would just add some walls to that, maybe by using some sus2s or sus4s like we did previously. And I would start building things like that. Of course, the theory of all this shouldn't be too stressed. Like in this particular case, when I was doing that, it sounded really thick, a lot of layers. And as I record things that way, I would take out some notes to make it a little bit more breathy and suggest some notes not as thick as it should. Whenever I'm writing a backing track or when you're writing a backing track, you should always keep in mind to keep things sparse, to leave more room to the player. But yeah, basically using your ears all the time, using just keeping in mind foundation, the time structure, the foundation, the walls. The more elements you have, the less options you have as a player. That's really the most important thing. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thanks so much for being there. I'll see you soon. Bye. Salut.